Ishmael Buckley, Lisa Buckley, thank you for coming today. I really appreciate it. From Inglewood, Colorado, American Automation Security. You guys run a fabulous business. I can't thank you enough for flying in to do this, first of all. Tell me a little bit about you, if you don't mind. You and Lisa, how you guys met real quick, because people love that, okay? And only talk about what you want to talk about,
right.
Then we'll get into the business. But it's always, people always go, how do they get involved in this business? Husband team, husband and wife team, how does this work?
Yeah, I was working in Colorado. I was living in California, but traveling. I was working for Compact Computer at that time, and I supported teams in the Western region, so Colorado was part of my region, and I would travel to Colorado every other week. And on one of my trips, coming back to California, I'm on a platform waiting for the train to take me over to the concourses, and this woman comes up to me and asks me, "Hey, is that a company bag, or did you buy that?" Because it had the Compact logo on it and stuff like that. And she showed me her bag was falling apart. And that was my wife. That was my future wife. Didn't know it. And that's how we met.
That was a slick move, Lisa. I like that one. Explain that. What was that? Did you really need a bag, or were you just trying to?
I truly did. And I was at Maytag at the time, coming back from a leadership retreat. And my colleagues flew back to Maytag was located at the time. And I was heading to Montreal. And so I just by chance was flying out of Denver that day. And my bag was just a terrible time with me and my computer bag. I left it on the company plane, and I would just use that kind of stuff and take it into the ground. But he was cute too.
Yeah. So were you smart enough? Did you take it as a pickup, or how'd you take it? Or did you, like most guys?
I almost messed up because we got on a train. And first of all, I told her it's a company issue. And then the train came, and we got on, and she was having a conversation with somebody about I don't know if you've ever been to Denver International Airport, but when you go on a train to the concourses, you see these propellers on the wall spin as the train goes by. And she's talking to somebody about when the airport opened and the artists that were coming up with this stuff. And I did ask her, I said, "Hey, would you like to go have a drink before you take off?" And she says, "Oh man, no, I got to go to Canada." And so I said, "Okay." I gave her one of my cards. I said, "Hey, maybe I can get you a bag or something like that." And gave her a card and went back home, got busy, and I got a phone call about a week later, or was it 2 weeks? About 1 or 2 weeks. She's like, "Where's my bag?"
That was great.
And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I felt so bad. And I had a buddy of mine who worked for Targus overnight her bag. And she got the bag the next day. Matter of fact, we still have that bag.
Do you really?
We still have that bag. Yeah. And then our first date was back in Colorado. I booked a trip to Lion's Head Resort up in Vail. And we met in Denver. And she had some friends that she knew there. And they were grilling me. They were checking me out. The father was there of one of her friends, and everybody's, "Who's this guy?" And so that's how it started. And we had a wonderful dating life when we were dating. We'd meet up in different cities because we both had jobs where we traveled.
Yeah,
and she would keep tabs on my itinerary and vice versa, and then we'd just meet up in different places, whether it was Boston or Chicago or Puerto Rico or back in California or San Francisco. And we did that for about 3 months, 4 months. And we both knew this was, I think it was meant to be. And a year later, we were married.
That's a great story. Yeah, you just figured it out and said, "Hey, forget this traveling.
Yeah.
I want you full time."
Yeah. And even when we got married, we both still traveled a lot. I started covering the U.S. with Cummins Engines. I went to work for Cummins Engines, doing logistical tracking systems. And so that took me into Canada and all across the U.S. for a few years. But yeah.
So you had a huge technical background, sounds right? What did you go to school for, actually?
Well, I went to a trade school.
Okay.
I grew up very poor family, living in government subsidized housing. South Central LA. I grew up half in Philly, half in South Central. And I always loved technology, even as a kid. I always took electronics classes. And in junior high, my mom paid for my first programming class at Radio Shack, learning how to program the TRS 80s, Trash 80s, and then later Atari systems. And I started programming. And I used to run bulletin boards all throughout high school. And I just love computers. And when I was graduating, I was really confused about what to do. And my stepdad, he's like my stepfather, recommended, hey, you've been into technology. Why don't you get into that? And I started looking into trade schools. I went to LA Trade Tech and then LA Associated Technical College. And I got certificates. And I started working in Culver City at Hamilton Avnet. That was my first real job, counting ICs on a dock. And it was a temporary job. The HR lady there was saying, why would you leave? I was working in a Broadway department store at that time and going to school. Why would you leave the Broadway and you got benefits and it's a full-time deal and to come work here and this is maybe like a 6-month gig for you? And I said, I'd love to get into the technology field. And if I got to start in the warehouse, I'm okay with that. And she said, okay. And they hired me. And then 6 months later, I got my notice. That was the end of it. And then a couple days before my layoff, I got called back into HR. And there was a gentleman in there that I used to talk to in a lunchroom. I never knew who he was. And his name was Angelo Murillo. And he winded up being a great mentor of mine. And he ran a division called VAD, Value Added. I forgot what the D is for, but we built custom systems for different processes. And he asked me the HR lady asked me, did I know who he was? I says, oh yeah, that's Angelo. She said, do you know what he does? I'm like, not really. And then she told me, and she said, he wants you to be on his team. And I said, okay. And he started me out building systems. Intel came out with systems when AIDS was real big, and we were building systems for AIDS research with microscopes on them and stuff like that. And built cement processing systems, did board modification for Jet Propulsion Laboratories for Northern Telecom boards that were going up in satellites. And I worked out there for a little while, got certified on board modification, cable fabrication, a lot of different things. And that's how it began. And it just went on from there. I was in 1920 when that started.
Incredible. And Lisa, you had an IT background, right?
Oh, no.
You were, what'd you do on that? Because
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
And very much influenced by my dad. And he was a self-taught and person that went to tech school and trades and stuff like as Ishmael did. And he worked and my mom did as well, worked at S.D. Warren, which was a paper mill. I mean, I think he wound up, when it was all said and done, was there for about 30 years. But in any event, my dad was a big influencer on me, and I was stuck at the hip with him all the time when I wasn't in school or playing with my friends. And he was very active politically. And I was always influenced by that when I was coming up through school. And originally when I went to college, so we had different, Ishmael and I kind of had that yin and yang going on. And undergrad, I really thought I wanted to be a dentist. And I thought that'd be great, and for a variety of reasons. And after about one semester trying to get an undergrad in biology, I knew that wasn't going to work for me. So technical, no. Math, no. Or limited anyway. But I said, wait a minute. What did I like? What did I enjoy? And I remembered about going to city council meetings and helping to run my dad's campaigns and going up and down the street with these big bullhorns on the cars and stuff. I'm like, and my school had a degree in public administration, which is half business and half politics. I love the politics side, and my parents were entrepreneurs. They ran a furniture store, Smitty's Furniture, for many years, throughout the time I was growing up. So I went into public administration, and as it turned out, I had a phenomenal internship while I was in college, and I had some great mentors that really helped me to see working in the public sector what that would look like. So by the time I graduated, And I was a really overachiever. I finished undergrad in 3 years. And so when I did my internship, I knew what it was about. At least I had a really good insight into it. So I said, okay, I tried working in the public sector. Let's see what working in business was like, even though I'd had exposure to it from my folks' business. And I really liked it. I worked in a bank initially, and I didn't like that. But being in the Detroit area, at that time, you really wanted to work for an automobile company. And so after about 18 interviews, literally, because it was hard, I got into Ford Motor Company. And I worked there for quite a while. I was in the sales division. And I had a chance to, I think at one time I was relocating every couple of years. And so I got a chance to work around the country and work with our dealer body and that kind of thing, which was really a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And that's where I learned how to write. That's where I learned how to communicate. And I see that as one of the big things in my career that really helped me to know how to operate in business. And I actually met when I was able to get to Maytag, it really got there by virtue of where our office was at Ford. And I'll never forget because they were trying to recruit me at Frito-Lay actually at the time. And I said, well, no, I love Ford. You never left a large corporation in those days.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
never left. If you got a job, you stayed there. And I relocated actually. I was president of the National Black MBA Association in Detroit. And I was at a conference. And it was just a phenomenal, we had so much fun. George Clinton was the entertainment. And I was on that floor dancing my butt off. I was having a good old time. And I started dancing with this one guy. Didn't know that he was executive VP at Frito-Lay at the time. My Frito-Lay buddies were there too at this conference, even though I'd left Denver at the time. And he said, they tell me you're pretty good. Don't you want to come work for us? I said, oh, no. I couldn't see going from automobiles to potato chips. I didn't see it. And so anyway, within a few months, he left to go to Maytag. And he called me and he said, wouldn't you like to be on my team? I'm like, really? You think so? So wash machines, manufacturing, the heavy stuff made a lot more sense for me. And I said, you know what? As long as they were in Iowa and having to relocate to Iowa wasn't really feeling too good. But I said, as long as you can pay me enough that I can go anywhere when I want to go, I'm your girl. So he went to Maytag. He became the CEO and president of Maytag. And from the time I met him, I was about 18 months, I became the vice president and general manager of a $2 billion laundry division. Total dream job. Total dream job. Because I always wanted to run a division within a corporation. Total dream job.
Lisa, okay. All right. So last night at dinner we talked, and I'm going to take us right into the security business now because I wanted everybody to hear this because both intelligent people, your skill sets are unbelievable. I know you mentioned about the IT and then somebody calling you, hey, we're looking for security because it's cybersecurity type stuff,
Yeah.
right? And then Lisa said, why don't we just get in the guard? People are making mistakes. They want guards. Why don't we try it out? This business. This is a really tough business. Now we have two very bright, smart, educated people, all right? They're going to jump in this business.
Yeah.
You got to tell me when you jumped in. Okay. I want people on the other side to realize, hey,
Yeah.
it's a tough world, right? It really is. It's a tough business. Tell us how that, speed it up. Tell me a little bit how that got started. And what we'll do, we'll take it ahead as far as, okay, you're in it. You decide to open up the business. And what was your goal in the business as far as contracts and where were you going to go? How were you going to be different with your backgrounds and what you knew? How were you going to be different compared to the competitors who are out there? Were you familiar with the security business? Did you know other people that were involved, or did you just, hey, we got it, and jump in?
I got to tell you, man, being married to a wife that has an MBA and went through Six Sigma, all this process stuff, because I was apprehensive about it. And I didn't tell you, but we were doing some stuff in defense, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But Lisa's position on whenever we got into something that really stretched us was, you got to focus on the processes. And I think, and I'll let her talk about that piece, my position was using technology to improve processes, business processes. That's what I did most of my life, was implemented technical solutions to improve business processes. And my wife, great at implementing and creating business processes. And applying that, both are really based on principles. And when you are doing business and you're really focused on core principles, it tends to work out over time. But mentally, it was real mental for me to go from technical into the guard business. Matter of fact, I resisted it in the beginning. And then I realized the calling that I had was to work with people and to encourage people and to help people to grow. And Lisa's right along that line with me, but we do it in different ways. Accountability is something that when we started working in the guard business, we realized accountability was something that we really needed to make sure we nailed, because it was tough, man. People, they wanted to know that their sites were being attended to. Safety was because we started in the construction side, safety was number one. And that they didn't put up with excuses. And we talked about this last night, and Lisa brought up a great point, which is how we got better at the security business is we had clients that demanded more of us constantly. And we didn't back down from that. We didn't run away from that. We embraced it, and I put my ego in my back pocket and said, okay, and Lisa did, and said, okay, how do we get better from this? And there was one gentleman that really was on us about safety and our guards, and that we weren't really doing this right. We weren't prepared, and we needed to really get better at it. So we were just really honest with him and said, hey, we want to get better at this. How can we get better at this? Because we know we need to do that. We know this is a service that we care about. How do we get better? And that was the beginning, because we got client after client that was demanding that we clean up certain things. And so we had to improve on our processes.
So for an example, when I was on the sheriff's department, I got into business and said, I'm going to make a department. I'm going to take care of my employees. I'm going to put them in great uniforms. I'm going to do all this. And you brought up a point about being humble and working with people, right? You really have to work with people, because a guy like yourself, you guys come from a whole different thought process, right? IT structure, to show up to work on time, a job's a job. And then you got people that come in and you go, and you're just blown away. You're like, what do you mean I can't do my homework on the job site? No, honey, you can't. I have to show up in time, but I don't get up till 10 o'clock, and then I go to Starbucks, and then I don't even rise till 10:30. You want me to be there at 9? They have this whole different concept, and you have to be very careful. You can get very negative, and you can go, hey, you can get abusive, and you're out of that business. I'm not saying everybody's that way.
Right.
But from your background, did you feel like you really had to take a real deep breath and go, okay, how do I take this approach? How do I change this thought process? What did you do to do that? Or how did you handle that? Or did you even experience that?
Oh, yeah, man. And that's what brought me to leaning on that higher intelligence that governs our lives, or governs us. Some people call it many different things, but that higher intelligence is something that I have to pull on a lot. Some people say, hey, I got to pray on this. I pray, I meditate, because I really believe meditation is a way to receive guidance when you need it. And I had to meditate on it, Chris. I'm not going to lie, man.
Please.
It was, and what came back, and I did this when we wound up getting a contract at Denver International Airport for a contract called Total Queue Management, TQM. And it was very similar. And because we did experience getting people that were just didn't care, or guys that would lie and say that they were on site, but they weren't, and the client would call, and that person, we'd reach out to him, and he'd say, oh, I'm here. And the client would be like, where you at? I'm here too. and oh, I'm going to I just went to the store. I'll come right back. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was tough. And I had to reach out and ask, how do we get better people? And what came back was, if you want better people, you have to be better. And I had to start working on myself. I had to start working on my attitude, the way that I would talk to these people or our employees that weren't living up to the standards that we were setting, and really changing my energy. And when I started changing my energy, and we started working together more, and I started letting go of issues that I had, emotional issues or psychological issues that were, I kept hitting a brick wall on how do we get good people. And amazingly, when we started to improve in ourselves and how we dealt with other people, we started attracting better people.
You played a big part in this, because you can't have your wife, who has a MBA, very sharp, if she's not supporting you with that thought. I imagine you were pretty frustrated. How did you handle that? Or did you pick up on that right away? Did you share that concept? I went to church too, but I was in there, please, Lord, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to kill him. Please, just keep me from killing him, okay? So different psychological approach on my end, but I told you about my upbringing. Please, intelligent woman such as yourself with an MBA in business and driven all the way from childhood, and you come into this. And you guys are great communicators, so you're sitting at the coffee table in the morning saying, honey, how's your day? What are we going to do today? How did you support that? I'm sure we were both involved in this, obviously. Tell me.
The way I supported it was also that introspection. And one thing that my parents raised me and my siblings all was to treat people the way you want to be treated. And you have to respect everyone, no matter how they look, no matter where they came from, no matter what their upbringing may be, whatever. And I would go back to my childhood, and I'll never forget, and I grew up in a small town, and very active in church and all of that as well. But my mom and dad, we would get a doorbell would ring on a Tuesday night. We got to go to school or work the next day, or Saturday night, didn't matter. And it would be someone in the neighborhood that was drunk. And my mom and dad never once turned anybody away. They said, RJ, come on in, let's talk about it. And it just stuck with me that they were always there to help someone out. And so often the people that work in the security field, they're not making six figures, and it's not that kind of an industry. And for the most part, they're just really trying to have a good, reliable job. And some look at it as a career, but most look at it as a job that they can support their families with. And our stories are different, came at a different processes, or different paths, I should say. And I always took it that way, no matter how hard it may get, with that aspect of trying to grow a team and have a reliable team and people that stay, that you got that longevity and whatnot. And it always came back to that for me. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Treat them with respect. And hold them accountable as well. And that gets hard for people in our society today, as you kind of alluded to. But that was how I saw it, and still see it to this day. I deal with that every single day.
Culture is huge. People, that word, I've said that many times on the podcast, it's just a word for many. You have to build that culture.
Yes.
And that comes through trust and over time with employees as far as retention, because we both know that this industry, it doesn't have the best reputation. A lot of these kids that go out and get these jobs are abused. They're not paid on time,
right.
Getting away with not showing up at the post or supervised. You get what you get when you inspect.
You do. You do.
And nobody inspects them.
Back with you.
And then they come over, and then it takes a while for them to go, wow, I actually got my paycheck on time. And smaller operators, they work the car themselves. They don't have a big education or background.
Right.
Could be military, ex-cop. And I'm not saying they don't have they're not educated, but I think everybody gets in this business surprised.
Sure.
Running and managing people, because that is really what it's about.
It is.
I don't care if you have a criminal law or you're an ex-cop or whatever.
That's right.
Okay, you know what crime looks like,
That's
but
right.
you still have to get somebody there. You got to dress them, got to put on uniform. You got to be a therapist, right? You got to be able to have payroll to make it,
Yep.
and then you have to be out there to talk to them, and then you have to train your teams and your supervisors. They have to carry that. So from top to bottom, everybody has to look the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you guys obviously right from the beginning did your best because you knew, hey, we're all in. We got to do this, right? And both phenomenal people. I've just met you, but I've always enjoyed speaking with you, Ishmael. Whether we just got a phone to talk, it was just a pleasurable phone call. I don't think we've ever, how you doing? Good. Okay, I'm busy right now. I got to go. I've got to go put out a fire. Because that's usually my typical calls that I had with 2,600 security companies. Chris, it's on fire right now. I got to go. It's burning down. What'd you do? The guard shot somebody. Can you help me out? I'm getting a 3 a.m. phone calls. Oh, yeah, with all the calls. But
Yeah.
let's talk about, because you guys are doing some really good contracts and people out there that everybody wants to grow. Say it again and tell me a little bit. Maybe go back and talk about the meditation, okay? And it's not smoking weed and sitting on top of a hill and getting your 15 minutes apiece. When you're meditating, tell them what you're thinking when you're meditating, okay? And can you, no matter how dysfunctional you may be, do you need therapy first before you start meditating? Do you need to get your own balance? What did you do? What was your secret?
Chris, amazingly, we sometimes get these realizations when we have a desire for something. You've heard the term ask and you shall receive type of thing. And I really wanted to learn how to be real with myself, be honest with myself. And it's amazing when you have a desire, you begin to attract the things that you want. And I started finding more information on practices and came across some Gnostic material. And it really helped me get into the beginning phases because it is a lifestyle. It's an ongoing thing. Meditation is something that you don't do for a certain period of time. It's something that you do all day long, all the time. And what it is, you are working at being aware of yourself. You're working at being aware of what comes out of your mouth. You're working at being aware of your energy when you're dealing with other people. And you're recognizing that I had to work on anger. I had to work on road rage type of thing. It was tough for me not to keep some D-cell batteries in my car glove box. And
I do. A little South Central.
right.
Yeah.
And my wife would tell me, man, you need to really watch what you're doing on the road. And that was the first thing I worked on. And what I did, and I'll get into your question, but I had to practice something. And what I learned was, it was a practice that I read about. Hey, get a handful of paper clips, put them in a cup holder. And anytime someone cuts you off or ticks you off, you take a paper clip and you put it in that other cup holder. And I did that for 3 months, not every day, but most of the time. And over time, it began to subside. And I was wondering, I wonder what the difference is here. And then I was listening to I love listening to lectures, and I was listening to the lecture on why that you would have that change. It's becoming aware of when that anger is coming up, because you can't change what you can't see. Okay? So meditation has been a practice for my growth. And the first thing that I had to really work on was the mental aspect and calming because when you try to sit in a quiet space, the first thing that wants to run you is your mind. You can't stop thinking about payroll or this guy did this at the site, and your mind is just constantly going. And the first thing I had to learn is how to train my mind not to run me. And that was a practice. I started with 5 minutes of setting my Apple Watch for 5 minutes and sitting there thinking about one thing. I chose a flower. I like plants, like flowers. And immediately, what happens is you get an itch here, or you start thinking about something else, and then you have to come back and focus on that one thing. And that's how it began. I had to train my mind to get ready to meditate, to get ready for it.
Wow. I don't think I have enough paper clips. I don't know. That cup would be full. What do they come in? By 200s? Or I don't know.
It was a lot.
That is incredible because I do. I'll tell everybody I do therapy once a week.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it was really understanding why I thought the way I thought when things came up. And then practicing that. You have to practice.
You gotta practice.
You can't. I learned one thing. Somebody tells you something, you can't go, oh, okay, I'll stop doing that. No. You really don't want to stop doing it. You want to stop doing it, but you want to be able to recognize when it comes up, and you have to practice. You have to practice that.
That's what it's all about, is the practice, and all throughout the day. And there was a time that I thought I was good, and just when you think you're good, that's when I had this car that was riding my butt, and and I got over, and the car got behind me, and I'm like, okay, and I moved over again, and right behind me again, and I started praying. I'm like, just help me understand why. And then all of a sudden, I look in that rearview mirror and I see this person's face, and it came over me that people are present. They're not present. They're physically there. And I can tell this person's mind was somewhere else. That look, it was just a look that you knew that they weren't present.
Yep.
And then that anger from me and that frustration just melted away when I understood that most of us are physically there, but maybe not mentally present. And we deal with that on a daily basis with employees, that we have to have a different level of understanding to realize why they may do some of the things that they do. Now, Lisa has been great at trying to give people opportunities. She gives them, I used to cut them off at the knees. I'm like, you're not going to do this. Done.
Yep.
But she taught me how to, or gave me the inspiration to want to try to understand the motivation behind why people don't do the things that they should do just as a human being. And it's, for us, the more that we can develop our level of understanding, the more we grow as a company, as individuals. And growth for us is key. We try to promote growth for everyone in the company because we need people that we can move up. And we need field supervisors. We need managers. We need these people. And when we can see and give them the opportunities and give them some grace to make mistakes, but come back and give them another opportunity, and they can acknowledge that and move on, then it begins to work. But do we have the ones that just don't work out? Absolutely. Because some people, no matter what you say, no matter how many opportunities you give them, it's not their time. It's just not their time.
So tell me, you have some really good contracts, okay? Tell me what it took to get those contracts. We're going to go quickly a little bit, but I want to know how you handle. Here's the biggest fear. I had a buddy that had a contract at UCLA, first time, biggest contract in the world. He called me up. He said, Chris, I'm making money. He goes, for the first time I got this contract at UCLA. I got a bunch of guards. He goes, man. He goes, I'm about 3 months for the payroll. He goes, I'm doing great. I feel so good. I'm so happy. And it was the next day he calls me up and he says, you got to help me. I lost that contract. I go, how? He says, one of my employees was walking and the dean's daughter was walking, and he made a rude comment to the dean's daughter. And he goes, Chris, I lost that contract. The guy told me, pack up. He goes, I got on my knees. I put my knee pads on. I went in there. I begged and begged to please, please help me. I'll get rid of that guard, whatever it takes. Okay. That is a big fear for a lot of people in big contracts, knowing you have employees out there. And it's that constant fear. And what you brought up, the reason why I'm bringing it up, because most owners don't think that way. And you better meditate and you better be there before you do that, because it's real quick where if you come off the gate, you come out from 1 to 10, you're on a 10, the way you talk to people and your supervision's doing the same, you're not going to have the people that are going to show up work. It's not going to be one person that's missing. It's going to be 10 or 20. So let's just say you've got that covered oppositely. But when you do have a big event, Lisa, I know you're fantastic at this, right? What is your conversation like when a customer calls you from Denver and says, Lisa, we had a problem, okay? I think we talked about it before, but we had a problem. What are you going to do about it? And maybe that customer, obviously, you're going to walk her down. You know how to do that. But
and she
how
deals
do
with
you?
the customer more than I do on that issue. So I think she's an excellent one to answer that question.
So if you don't mind me asking, you don't mind sharing, how do you build that relationship with the customer to where you don't feel so panicked as an owner? Right, because owners don't know how to talk to a bigger customer. Sometimes they don't put other supervisors in front of them to do the check-in. They're not hands-on in their business, right? That happens with small to mid-level. But what's that conversation? Now, you're educated, you got a pretty good background, but what's that conversation like when somebody does something really wrong?
Yeah.
I think one of the things how I am able to handle that or deal with that is I have been in their shoes. In other words, I ran big divisions. I know how corporate thinks. I was one. I know the impact of the stock price in those war rooms and working through all that stuff. So I not only know, but I appreciate what they're going through, what they have to account for. So that being said, it immediately goes away. They're not overreacting. They got people to answer to as well. They have values that they want their contractors to live by as well, to operate by. So immediately I'm on the same page with them. And the way I deal with it, I think it's not so much what I say, but it's what we do. I had a recent client, actually at Denver International Airport, that we had an okay project launch. It wasn't my best. And when you have a mediocre launch, that can seep into how your operations are executed, definitely in the short term. And if you're not careful, you won't even make it to the long term. And I'm going to say maybe a couple months into the project, the client was not happy. There were issues with people operationally on the floor talking on the phone or not in uniform or just a lot of basic type things. And to make things even worse, some of our administrative issues were not being addressed properly either. And took it all. And I just said, basically, give me a week and you will see the difference. I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to walk away from it. Everything you're saying is spot on, because at this level, we have to be able to perform at the level you're asking for. This is the third largest airport in the country, sixth in the world. This is not for someone to be cutting their teeth on. And that was one of the reasons they got us there. Start having meetings every morning at 5:45 with my team, reviewing what happened the day before, reviewing where we're going into the next day, et cetera. Set up weekly meetings with the client to be with the operations folks and the administrative folks, so we could hear in real time what was going on. Having weekly meetings with our team, our entire team, and then broke that down to smaller pieces as to who were the 25% that wasn't performing well and that kind of thing. Within a week, I followed up with the client, and he said, I like the direction. Because this was a construction company. They don't say a lot. And if they're saying 0, chances are you're doing a great job. So I want to get him to 0. I didn't want him to say anything, because I know if they're not saying anything, we're knocking out the park. And within about 3 weeks, on every front, we got it cleaned up. Number one, I got a team that cares. Number two, we knew that there was things that should have been tighter that wasn't. We owned that. And we had to own it, and we had to be honest with ourselves. And we knew we were so much better than this. We knew we could do this stuff backwards and in high heels, as I say. It will work fine. And it has. And it has. And I think if this client was here at the table right now, that he would say yes.
Okay, Lisa, let me ask you this. Did you get comfortable? I don't think you guys would ever get comfortable, but did most operators get comfortable? The second, was supervision not telling you the truth? Your people, right? To where the executive from the airport had to call and say, hey, did you know? So were you surprised when they called? Was it something you were hoping to get there, working on? It was like not enough people, or we need to do more training, but we're so staffed and we got these other fires going on, right? Hopefully we'll get through this.
Some of that came into play, but the biggest thing, and I'll own this, I underestimated the execution on that contract. I just basically underestimated. I worked for this client 10 years ago or so. I knew how things went then, and it had gone up. It had the expectations and the processes had changed beyond what attention I was given to it. I thought I had everything handled with the right person, with the right thing, and I didn't. I underestimated it. And when I got that mental aspect turned around and say, wait a minute, I know how to do this. I know how to get from A to Z to make this thing right. But it wasn't getting complacent. It was just the fact that I thought I knew it. And I didn't do my executional homework like I should have. That was what happened.
It was a lesson learned. And we always try to figure out what is the lesson learned in this. And part of it too, Chris, is growth. We've been blessed to grow as a company. And when we adopted the philosophy of growth for each individual, because if the individuals don't grow, and the company does not grow. And when we adopted that, we didn't realize the impact and the rapid growth that we started to achieve. And I'm not talking about we were bringing on new clients left and right. We brought a few on, but a lot of our work is reoccurring business with clients that we've had for a long time. Some clients we've had for over 23 years. Part of it is we're expanding, we're growing, our footprint's growing. We started doing work out of state. I think we've done a good job at the growth piece. But yeah, there's still some painful things that we go through in learning as we grow. But having the mindset and understanding that, you know what, we're going to make mistakes, but we're not going to beat ourselves up. And that's a key thing too. And that's something that I had to go to therapy to understand, which is I have high expectations for myself. Therefore, I have high expectations for the people I do business with or that are working with me.
Sure.
And my kids, I had all these high expectations. And I won't say I was unforgiving, but I probably beat them up, not physically, but I probably got on their case just as bad as I would get on my own case if I missed a workout or if I said something that I shouldn't have said, and I'm like just beating myself up.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how not to beat myself up so much when I made mistakes, and then to learn how to just acknowledge the mistake and just move on. So that helped me to grow. That's helping the business to grow, because we do make mistakes as a business. Every business does. I think Lisa handles our mistakes or the mistakes that she may make, and I make mistakes, but we always look at what is the lesson learned, because we can't continue to make these mistakes, and we don't. We don't make the same mistake over and over again.
Yeah, you guys are the dynamic duo. The combination, right, is fantastic. You got a great MBA background, all that, and then you've got this other side that you're building. So, Lisa, I want to get back to you. your client on that. You brought up some really fantastic points, and thank you for sharing that. When the client calls you, you go into MBA mode, okay? You know how to structure it. You know how you're going to get this done. But the biggest fear is you're saying, okay, how do I walk in the door and take MBA level to a GED level and try to academically train, teach, and show these people so they can retain it? Don't feed them too much so they don't regurgitate it. How do I? You had to go, okay, first of all, honey, we're going to meditate. I'm going to go in this room, and I'm going to pick out, who do we got? Who do we got here that can handle the things that when I say, hey, we need to supervise, just go there. How did you walk through that? Did you have to really take your MBA and really dice it up?
You have to, because it has to be a situation that's genuine, right? Yeah. You have to be able to let them know that this matters, that this client matters. And if we lose this contract, so mote it be, as Ishmael would say. But at the end of the day, it won't be because we didn't give it our absolute best. Yeah. It will not be because of that. And we're really fortunate that the folks that work for us in leadership capacities, especially one in particular, will give his all. Will give his all. But he's at that part in his growth that he still needs direction. But given that direction, he's going to run with it every time. And we'll own it. Yeah. And we'll own it. And at the end of the day, when you talk about getting to some of that GED level, had a situation about a week ago, and we've constantly, in this age of technology, dealing with our people like we do, people like that cell phone, they're joined at the hip with it. They will. I had an employee that walked away from his job because we wouldn't let him talk on a cell phone while he was working. Literally, he was on a patrol type of, not a patrol, but
he was working the floor.
He's working the floor. And so that was fresh in my brain. And about a week or two later, just got another issue with cell phones usage, and how that's being perceived by the customer. And at any airport, there's cameras everywhere where we're at, but there's always cameras all the time.
And there's operational folks that are walking around, taking pictures.
And so we got a couple pictures. So we were having our weekly meeting with our team. And not only did we catch people on camera and pictures taken of them on their cell phones, it was 3 different people in a span of about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
We had the meeting. We were training on cell phone usage, and all of a sudden, boss lady puts on the pictures on the screen for everybody to see. They were called out. And it helped a lot to know that it mattered to people. They were embarrassed. They know that this is something we train on all the time. And, oh, by the way, now this is going to be shared with my coworkers. And now my job truly is at risk. Sometimes it's that shock value. And we just have to take it up a whole nother level. And it's not deliberately trying to embarrass anybody else. But when you spent hours, days, months even sometimes on a procedure that people know that they shouldn't do, at the end of the day, they're like, you know what? I just can't follow your rule. I can't follow your policies. And in security, if they can't do that, they can't be there. Yeah. It's done.
Yeah, and it's very important you recognize that early.
Yeah.
And the other team has to be a team. Everybody has to be a team, because I tell them, if it's common knowledge, we lose a contract, everybody loses. Everybody loses. So why do I have to supervise? You're all teammates. You're all mature, right? If you see something, I'd love to train you. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, if that's what it takes. But if you see your counterpart over there on the phone, please go over there. Tell him, hey, brother, put your phone away. We don't get in trouble. I had to take phones and make them a different color. And I gave them a big tablet so they couldn't stick the phone in the pocket. So green tablet, the client recognized they're reporting. Because sometimes they were doing the right thing using the technology.
Right.
But in your situation, they usually don't want technology. They want you visible. They want you presence. Right. It's more of a customer service. The restroom's over here. The direction's over there. How can I help you? It's just, it's visually giving, you're the ambassador of Denver Airport, whatever you want to call it. That's what you are, okay? You're not security. You're a walking, talking burglar alarm. You're not the police.
Right.
They're just to, you're more customer service. Right?
Yes.
And it's hard for a lot of them. So they have to, a lot of the guys, you have to rinse out that, what's that, mall cop to Paul Bart attitude, right? We really want. In other words, I don't want to, I'd rather hire somebody that's been a representative for Verizon as a customer service versus a professional security officer or somebody with military, because they've got some of them, they're just young, this maturity, because nobody knows how to, and that's the other thing, nobody really knows how to talk to anybody anymore and have that conversation.
Yeah.
They don't want to even talk. They want to text them. You and I were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
I told you my brother's kids and his girlfriend were in one room. They were 20 feet apart. And I said, what are they doing? He says, they're fighting. And I go, what do you mean they're fighting? He goes, yeah, they're fighting via text. I mean, what are they fighting? How long have they been doing that? About an hour. Literally on the phone, because they don't know how to communicate. As kids, we did that. We fought in the sandbox. You stole my marbles. I would hit you. And then I'd call you later. Hey, you want to come over and stay the night? And you go, yeah, okay, come on over. And we're cool again.
Yeah.
It just, we can joke about it, but technology's takes a different direction. But so there's a lot of things that come into play.
It's interesting. I had a situation where we talk about technology, and in some instances has basically taken the place of responsibility. Oh, I didn't get that email, or I didn't see that, or oh, really, or I didn't get the call, whatever the case may be. And I think security, I try to look at the stories, the fabric of what we deal with to try to learn different things. And I had a situation about a week ago, a person, and we'd had some performance issues, but not by comparison, not an awful lot. And this person abandoned his post at the airport. Had went on break, never came back. And so we're trying to figure out what happened. And someone abandons his post, they have to communicate with me before they can come back to work. And so he sends a text to his supervisor saying, oh, because the supervisor reached out to him and what have you. He responds back and says, oh, I didn't feel good, and I didn't come back to work, and I didn't tell anybody because I knew Lisa didn't care, and I'm just not going to come back. And he sent that text around to 2 or 3 different people. Then he finally sent one to me. And I very rarely go there. I truly do. I very rarely go there. But I sent him a letter. The first line of it was highlighted in bold. I sent him an email, rather. And I said, and replied to that email, replied to that text, I said, your actions were so immature and so disrespectful. How could you even begin to do that? You're going to blame me, my policy that's very clear. If you're sick, call us, let us know, you go home.
No problem.
Yeah.
But then you're going to blame that on me? And I had to go to every single point, and I sent it to my entire team.
Good.
I said, this is ridiculous. And the same person sends a request the other day to take a day off. And doesn't he know he's fired? Because he never reached out. I say that point because if you're willing to communicate with your staff, and you even show that you're willing to communicate to your staff, we have an email, management@americanautomation.com. You want to say anything to us, you don't want anything else to anyone to know about it, your supervisor between us, send us that information. Let's talk, let's communicate. But if I gave him an opportunity through that email, I said, I know this may have been hard for you to hear. I said, but if you want to talk through this, I think we can get past this. Didn't get a text, didn't get a phone call, nothing. And this guy thinks he still has a job.
My problem with that is I feel like I got to drag that person in, and I try to fix them. I got to understand that concept. Do you realize how tragic that really is? Because not only you're doing it here, just like you said, you're doing it in your personal life.
Oh, yeah absolutely.
If you absolutely think.
Absolutely.
So when I talk to supervisors, when I was running my business, I told them, I says, when you go out and you're having conversations with your team, all right, there's a difference between supervision, in other words, on a company level. In other words, let me show you the two different ways to supervise. I'm gonna ask you one question about supervision, and then I'm gonna change it up a little bit and see what happens. So in other words, I'd ask them to go. I'd go out there and I'd say, hey, how are things going? Is everything okay? Is there anything you need to tell me? Do you need a bathroom break? Standard stuff.
Yeah.
Nothing personal, just doing the job.
Right.
I said, here's the keys. I'm going to make you owner. You're part owner of this company. Now, if you were, and I was to do that, what would your thought process be? In other words, if I was to come out as an owner, how would that change? Oh, I would. Number one, I'd probably ask them, hey, is the schedule okay? Are you happy with what you're working, where you're working here? Do you like the job? Would you mind giving me a tour and show me what you know? I'd really respect you've been here for a long time, obviously. I'd love to help you out. House family. Oh, there's a number of things I can think of. I go, stop right there. I go, see position? I just put keys in your hand, and the whole thought process changed. And I go, that's the whole idea. We're trying to build a culture here. And I always need you to think that way. Have I done anything to you since you've been here to make you do things any different? Well, you see what we're trying to do, like you guys put that effort in. So a kid does that kind of text message. I always like to grab that. I know you do too, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the most frustrating part about this business, because you're taking people that are permanently dysfunctional, and you never know when they're going to blow up. You never know when they're going to abandon a post. What makes you think that you can just walk away? And they know that.
Yeah.
And I was telling them, come on. How old are you?
Yeah.
21. Come on. You know that. Okay? You know that. When you're done with your cereal bowl, pick it up, put it in the sink, please, wash it so your mom doesn't have to do it. You ever heard those terms before? Why do you do that? Because it's out of respect. My mom, she doesn't have to do everything for me. What's the difference here? And it's very frustrating. And in this business, would you say, it's a lot of that.
It is a lot of that. But at the end of the day, in that instance, and I'm going to share that email in a training session publicly, because that is so sophomoric, that is idiotic to say, not only am I going to blame somebody, I don't blame the owner of the company, because I didn't follow a simple rule that I'm sick, I don't feel well, I pick up the phone, I call, I'm going home.
Yeah. And you know why he did that? He blamed the owner of the company because he knew everybody wasn't going to go with, I didn't feel good, I didn't want to call. So I'm going to go higher level, and I'll just blame the owner of the company. Then I'll get the team support. Maybe they don't know Lisa. That was a reach out.
As some people will say, keep my name out of your mouth if that's where you got to go.
Yeah. Good for you. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and you brought up another good point as far as we're all dysfunctional to a particular degree. It's just different degrees of being dysfunctional. And when you manage a fair amount of employees, I think we're up to going over 150 now employees. And the one thing that has been coming more and more clear to me is policies are just so important, and standards. And it's just like those laws that I tend to talk about sometimes. Gravity is one. It doesn't care if you're 8 or 80. You step off a cliff, you're going to go down. Simple as that. And in business, you have to have policies that are just that dry sometimes, that cut and dry. Yes, anytime you involve people, are there going to be gray areas? Absolutely. But when it comes to policies and laws, it's tough to operate with gray areas, because then you're viewed as having favoritism.
Yeah.
And you let this person say this or get away with this or whatever. And the more and more we do business, the more and more I realize that having good policies or laws within your company, we have these policies as if you abandon your post, you cannot come back to work until you talk to a principal at a company. And simple as that. Or you may not be able to come back to work. Because when you abandon posts, that's a serious deal. You leave your clients' assets hanging. And we got some clients that they got millions, if not close to $1 billion worth of assets that we're responsible for people coming in and out of this lot or this area. And if we fall off our job, that exposes their assets. And they depend on us to watch those assets. And when they roll around and they don't see a guard that should be at a particular key choke point for gate operation or something like that, and they don't communicate, they don't let, and this is why we've taken a stance of, we used technology as a double-edged sword. Okay? What makes it a double-edged sword is because man can pervert anything and use it for bad, or we could use it for good things. We use technology as a company to hold ourselves accountable to our clients. When you were running, so when you came to us with Silver Tracks, that was part of that push that we were going for, and we gave our clients access to that SilverTrack portal so they can get in and see if we were doing our rounds. And if we weren't doing our rounds, guess what, Chris? We wouldn't charge them.
Yeah.
And then we would have an ethical conversation with the guard and ask the question.
Yeah.
So you were asleep, or you didn't do the rounds. Do you still expect us to pay you for that? Oh, I was here.
Yeah. 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 They do. It really is amazing. I said, do you ever heard of the Ten Commandments? They go, oh, yeah. Remember the thing of I don't know which we went over, but you ever know thou shalt not kill?
Yeah.
When you leave your post, you're killing you're killing this contract.
Yes.
Do you realize what you think is so minute terminates everybody's position? Because the owner, whether somebody gets through that, gets killed. Do you understand that? You stand in that position. Somebody, it takes 5 minutes. Okay? Despite you sit there and nothing happens, it's at one time. Yeah. And you kill the entire contract. Yeah. And it just, and said, that's our thou shall not.
Yeah.
Okay? Right there. It's like I said, it's ongoing for sure. But bringing up technology, I know we've been going through some time, but I would love to talk about the new product and get your thoughts on that, okay? Because as the originator of SilverTrack, I did that. I sold the company, as you guys know, in 2019. A lot of things have changed since then. And so today, I took that 30-year library and we dumped it into a artificial intelligence platform, which everybody's familiar with AI. It's a scary thought. Yeah. Okay. People are scared of AI, but it's coming. Yeah. And it's here. And the approach I'm taking with it now is, okay, we're not really necessarily eliminating people here. There are people that are going to be eliminated, unfortunately. Okay. But we're not eliminating people. What we're doing is I'm streamlining the process, a process that I've never been able to do with SilverTrack or any other reporting tool that I've consulted with and worked with. I was the first one to originate. It was built, SilverTrack was built for the customer. It wasn't built for the guard companies. I built it. That's why I had that background.
Yes.
So that library of information now into an artificial intelligence platform, dumped in. It scares the hell out of me, I'll be honest with you. Elon Musk, he talks about it carefully. Have you ever noticed that when he mentions AI? He says, carefully, the robots, eventually we have to. Yeah. He's even careful because it's that scary. It's getting smarter every day. So long story short, I'm now taking AI to where I've simplified the training. There's no training. I don't have to worry about it. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I fixed that. Yeah. They could speak multiple languages. They could type whatever they want. Yeah. And it fixes it. Yeah. Now, not as a narrative, it's going into my database and it's putting all the correct terms from those airport terms.
Yeah. And all those incidents.
Stuff. It's incidents, right? Yeah. Nobody's going to do that. You have to know it, okay? And then AI just gets smarter every day. So it's like having a supervisor that's in there. And every day you tell it something, you don't ever have to repeat it because it's already ahead of you, okay? And we're ahead of the game. We're the first ones to originate AI, okay, in the reporting app with all those tools, and it's built on that platform. All the other solutions out there are going to have to completely break down. There's no way, I'm telling you now, there's no way they're going to have to go, let me just add this into the narrative. That's a possibility with an API, you being an IT guy.
And I looked at the product, man.
Yeah,
I like it. This is a prime example of AI is it is very powerful. There's no doubt about it. Here's the deal. What makes it scary is what we choose to do with it. Okay? Now, when we're using it for purposes like Vision is using it for, to be able to enhance a reporting element and make it more clean and effective, that's a good choice to use AI for. It's a very good choice. Now, if you want to use AI to robotically call people and capture their voices as they answer the phone so you can call their credit card company and use their voice to disseminate that information to make it seem like their robot is talking to you because they're using AI too on a lot of the voice processing systems. And it just gets down to our ethics. What are we using this for? Why are we using it? And because we can use it, should we?
Yes.
That's always been the conundrum that we face, is us as human beings. I'm a firm believer that if we really wanted to change this world overnight, we could.
Oh.
But the fact is, unfortunately, there are elements and power in people that is not to their advantage that we make people more productive or we make people more conscious and aware. If I got a bunch of people that are unconscious and unaware, that allows me to make a lot of money.
Sure does.
In certain aspects.
It sure does.
So,
100%.
and that's my biggest, I think that's my biggest contribution that I can make to humanity is changing myself and constantly changing myself for the better. And hopefully that impacts my family. And if I can impact that, maybe I impact the community. And if I can impact the community, maybe I impact my country. If I can impact my country, maybe I impact the world. But if we sit around and play the blame game and expect other people to change to make this better, we're lying to ourselves. And if you think that you can't change this world, you can, but it has to start with you as an individual to improve yourself and stop pointing the finger, because it's easy to blame somebody else for something. So easy.
And you brought up a very good point. That's what everybody does.
That's what everybody does. It's so easy. But it's hard to take a look at yourself to see how you're going to improve this. The products that we use as a security company are products that we personally research and try to find, and sometimes they come back to us, that we use to keep ourselves at an ethical level that we know keeps us out of trouble.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to let certain clients go.
Sure.
Because, yeah, we do get those clients sometimes that don't meet our ethical standards. It's a two-way street. And we've had clients that we had to just stop doing business with because they expected our guards, or they expected us to put our guards in an unsafe situation. And we just won't do that.
I mean, that's actually happening a lot across the board because of staff being cut, and the police, number one, aren't responding. They know time to respond to an incident, and that's why I tell these security officers all the time, I says, listen, you guys need to be very careful. Yes. I appreciate the fact that you want to do a good job for us, okay, number one. But I've been to a few police funerals, and I'll tell you right now, after about 2 years, nobody remembers that guy. His family's still suffering. They don't pay him enough. And I go, I don't know what your number would be to lose an eye, all right, or to be crippled. How's my pay rate? Is it worth that? No. He said, so when you're young, you're not thinking clear. Being honest with you, sometimes it takes about 30, 35, or maybe you got in an accident and say, hey, that hurts. I don't want to do that anymore, whatever it is. But I'm telling you now, at any point when you're in this job, here's what the rules are, and it's my rules. The client doesn't tell you what to do. The client has a number.
Yep.
They're to call me. Okay, and then I tell you. So don't feel that you have to, and I appreciate it, I get it, but let's have a clear understanding. You can be respectful and say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, but then you call me right away so I can call the client. Let me beat him up.
Yes.
Okay, you don't need, shame on them for even putting you in that position. If the hair in the back of your neck raises up and you say, hey, that doesn't feel good and I don't think that's a job, what do? Call me.
Yes.
It's just, if you get sick and you're not going to make the post, what do? Call you. Okay, same thing. You got it? Yep. When in doubt, what do? Call you. And if you can't reach me, who do you call? Sue.
Yeah.
But clients are come out and start trying to position them and say, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. And I need way out of the job scope, especially what you're paying for.
Yes.
And then they're insulted and then they're threatening you. So you're right. There's a time you need to pull it.
Yeah.
But a lot of small operators have to realize they have to stay that course too, because they give the industry a very bad reputation. They keep the rate of the guard or the security industry down because these people will turn and burn. And by the way, I tell them, you can play that game, but you're not going to get paid on time. You can be just like the other guy. They rip me off. They rip me off. You need to understand who your A clients, B clients, C clients are.
Yep.
Okay? And if they're HUD, then, if they got that kind of an attitude or whatever, then you need to be careful.
Very careful.
Yeah.
And that's when it comes to one thing that we are very proud of, and I know pride is something that you don't want to hang on to a lot. In the 24 years we've been in business, we haven't missed a payroll. And that's the sacrifice of a small company that none of the employees will ever get. And I know you know what I'm talking about, where you will go without so your employees can maintain and you can keep them coming. And we've had some of those tough times where, we had to watch that mailbox and pray that check would come so we can make payroll and all that good stuff. And because of our practices, I think the result is we got clients that are pretty consistent. Sometimes we run into issues whether it comes to insurances and making sure our insurance policies are up to snuff. And sometimes a client comes back and says, our underwriters require this now for insurance. And then the insurance companies are giving pushback because we can't get that. So they're going to hold that payment until the insurance. Now, I don't think that's fair.
No.
And if we run into a situation where it's burning through our reserve and we got to cut them off.
Yeah.
We got to cut them off because we got to protect our company. We got to protect our people so we can keep the cash flow going to pay them. And when these games are played, and this is where business ethics come into play, and some of these people know that when they play games. There's a term for it, I think it's called engineered incompetence. Oh, Sally's on vacation. We did turn it in, this person got sick, or we're changing our payroll system, and we're just having a hiccup. We're trying to get it back up and going and stuff. And they don't care about you as a small company. They care less.
Yep.
And so, like I said, I'm a firm believer in how energy works. And energy works in a way whereby when you are operating at a certain level, things do tend to work out for you according to that level that you're operating in. If you got problem after problem and incident after incident, check the level of how you're operating and how you're treating other people, how honest you are, being real with yourself, because when you play stupid games, win stupid prizes. If you want to operate and play games, well, people are going to play games with you. And that's why I'm so thankful as a business owner and as a husband who works with your wife. I'm really thankful, man. I'm just so thankful of where we are right now, how aligned we've become over the years. And we've had our tough roads, definitely. But I am extremely thankful that she didn't give up on me and vice versa. And we continue to focus on growing with each other. Now we're at a level where the kids are going to be gone, and we're talking about the next growth level that we're going to go through. But this business has made me grow as a person. Definitely has made me grow. And there's been some times I wanted to just I'll go work for somebody else, or I'll go to the islands and be a tan man. I'll walk around with a bottle of tannin oils and work out and have a decent body or something and just spray people with tannin oil. And I'll go from resort to resort, and I'll just be a tan man.
So true, huh?
But I'm just thankful it didn't get to that. I don't know if I could do that anyway, but I'm thankful for our employees. I'm thankful for my wife. Thankful for my children. As hard as that is sometimes, a lot. I just try to continue being thankful because it is so easy to, as Lisa would say, complain, condemn, and criticize. It's easy to do that, but it's much harder to give a compliment sometime when it's just not in you to tell a person, I'm thankful that you're here, even though they've made some grave mistakes, which we all do.
Yeah, it's hard to put that face on sometimes.
It's hard, man.
It's very hard to put that face on and, like you said, and say it correctly. Lisa, I want to ask you, because I'm very impressed with your background in our conversation today. What would you tell the listeners out there today if they wanted to open a security business?
I'll go back to something that Ishmael said earlier in terms of meditation to prepare. You can't prepare. The first thing would be to really do some strong introspection as to your skill set and what you can do. There's so many different things that we do. We're, like you mentioned earlier, we can be a psychiatrist for folks. We have to figure out how to be a lawyer. You got to figure out how to be a person that understands schedules. You got to be able to work with vendors and getting enough uniforms. Do you have enough larges? Do you have enough mediums? Do you got to have your licenses? You have to have your training. On and on. There's so many things that it can be overwhelming. But if I were to talk with someone that's thinking about starting a security company, number one, I think in light of a lot of different small businesses that can be successful, it can be a very successful venture. But you have to be humble enough to start small. Even if it's a crew that you have only 5 officers. Because when we started our venture into the physical security space, it was carried because we had the cybersecurity space. We did them both.
Yeah.
And we just had that small little engine that we just kept growing. Not hockey stick growth, but just really being methodical. We've never wanted to do bars. We never wanted to do dispensaries. We were very specific with our client base. Now, maybe bars and dispensaries work for you. Great. But just know the type of clients that you want to go for. Everybody can't serve every master. We don't do apartment buildings. We've done a few. We'll probably never do them again. Because when we got in that space, it did not work for us as to the kind of clients that we're the best with. We both came from corporate. We're in our element talking to big companies. It works out great. Microsoft is one of our clients now. That just didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It started many years ago. So I would say, number one, security is a great business to get into. You have to be able to know who your clients are. You have to be willing to work hard. It is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 a year type of operation. Do you have that capacity to be there at all times?
Yeah. And answer that phone.
And answer that phone even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve. Anytime it could be. The other thing I would say is, and the reason why I think it's such a great industry, it's too bad that our society needs us at the level we do. So many of your listeners around the country, when we went through the pandemic, we were the industry we were dependent on. All of our officers around the country went around with those letters. Other people couldn't go to work. We had to. And that was great as an industry because I think we showed collectively what we meant to this country. We've never had a layoff in 24 years of business. Not a single one. Because we've lost contracts, count 2 or 3 fingers, what contracts we've lost, but maybe contracts weren't renewed or what have you, that kind of stuff to balance through that. But this is an industry that can be extraordinarily stable. It's not like our poor restaurant owners that have gone through what they've gone through and not around anymore, or retailers because now they're dealing with tariffs and all that stuff. We are basic meat and potatoes. It may not be sexy, but our clients need us. Our communities need us. Our country needs us. And I would be very encouraging to anyone that would want to get in the industry. But you got to look yourself in the baby blues or baby browns and figure out if you're willing to do the sacrifice that it takes. Because even that restaurant owner that may be doing everything, they're still not working 24/7. We work 24/7. There's somebody in my company working every single day of the year.
Yeah, this industry is funny, huh? When the
It
economy's
is.
good, it's good. When the economy's bad, so to speak, we get busier because people start stealing.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It's like
Exactly.
liquor stores, man.
Yep.
People are going to buy alcohol when the economy's good, and when it's bad, they're going to buy
Or
alcohol.
even buy it more. Okay, we're going to close this out, but tell me, Lisa just said it all. Any last thoughts in your end with that?
Yeah, it's hard. I have a policy of when people ask me for advice, sometimes I shy away. Most of the times I shy away from it because we all are dealing with different things in life. What works for me might not work for the person that is looking for the advice. The best thing I can tell you, like Lisa said, is the introspection piece. Asking for that guidance. Is this right for you? Go with your gut instinct, because we all have within us that guidance system. We just have to nurture it and practice and work with it more. So I don't tend to go and give advice. I like to coach people to pull that from within, because it's in all of us. And I've gotten some very good guidance from pulling it from within. I rarely go and ask somebody a solution to any problem that I'm having, unless it's a legal issue. I got to go talk to an attorney or something like that. But work within, like Lisa said, work within yourself, understand what's best for you, and go with those gut instincts. Now, you can look at other companies and ask other companies. And if you're serious about doing this, because we believe in, you got to give back. So if we had a company come to us and say, hey, opening up a guard business, how did you guys handle the accounting piece? She can talk to them all day long about that. Or how did you handle your policies when it comes to safety? You got specific questions like that, reach out, talk to the people who did it, and don't reinvent the wheel. But definitely look within yourself to see if this is something that you're gonna be consistently able to get back up when the mistakes are made. Frank Sinatra, he's got a great song called "That's Life." I love that song.
It is.
And picking yourself back up and getting back in a race is real important, because we have been to the brink and have lost everything and did not give up, but we reinvented. The company was reinvented. We reinvented ourselves. It does happen. It might happen to different people at different times, but as Frank would say, that's life. And you got to roll with it. And don't give up. Just don't give up.
And I wanted to add one other quick thing, because I keep it with me, these short videos in my brain. And I remember when we were first starting out, our son was born. And we had those little contracts that working with those big companies, what they can mean. And I remember having to go out in the field with my son when he was small enough to be in a car seat as an owner. And more women are in the business now and that kind of thing. And ask yourself those questions, not to put a baby at risk or anything like that, but just more to check on your staff. But are you willing to have your baby in the back of the car seat to make that business work at 2 o'clock in the morning? He's up. He's fine. He's riding with mom. He's happy. But are you willing to put the baby in the car seat to go out and make those kind of sacrifices?
It's tough.
When you're looking at starting a business like that, ask whatever that may be in your personal situation. And I've had the baby in the car seat lots of times. As has he.
That's awesome. You know what? I can't thank you both enough for coming here. I think this is probably one of the best podcasts we had. Great information, delivery, everything about it, which is terrific. And thank you so much for flying into Colorado. I'm going to ask you to come back again someday.
Oh, yeah, man. I'd love to. When we get Vision up and going, I'd love to come back and talk about that. That's a great platform. I'm one that, because we talked about it, because I thought about developing software myself, but I'm not into reinventing the wheel. And when I see something that really works for us, I tend to try to look at it and implement it and see how it goes. So I'm excited. I loved Silver Tracks. It was a great platform. It got our business to a different level, and I thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, it's not what it is anymore. It's not that way anymore. I
Yeah.
hate to throw it for the record for everybody, but I think it's a shame. I won't carry that on, but I want to go out and find operators like yourself and share that conversation where people can come to one
Yes.
small a small group where you can hear from you on a
Yeah.
weekly lecture. Hear from Lisa. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be, and just try to change the industry one step at a time.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I always tell everybody, I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to tell you what I did that was really dumb,
Right.
and you can do whatever you want with it.
There you go.
That's
It's
it.
your
That's
decision.
Your decision.
That's right.
Absolutely.
It's your decision.
But thank you for having us.
Thank
This
you.
has been
Thank
Thank
you
you
for having us. Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa,
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah.
Ishmael, thank you very much. Hey, everyone. No matter where you're watching from, if you get anything out of this, please like and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.